got happy and I give less than a fuck. Love me or hate me, I'ma show enough, rip shit up. It's Mr. Nothing, nice on a mic stand. Mic in the left and the zest in my right hand. I took a puff, had enough now, hold up. If that was Indo, niggas getting rolled up.
What's going on, folks? This is Acid. So I've got a collaboration review I'm doing with Jackal Goldkick, and it's about the County Hound EP from Cassius. So a little bit of backdrop on this guy. Basically, in late 2006, Eminem dropped a compilation album called Eminem Presents the Re-Up, and the lead single from that project had Cassius on there. So that was basically You Don't Know. It's kind of an older song now. It's not quite one of Eminem's more played songs, but it did decent on the radio, at least back in those days. Had 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks, Eminem, and Cassius on there. He was the least known. And, you know, prior to Eminem kind of having an overdose and going through his drug problems throughout 2007 and 2008, Cassius was going to drop an album called Loose Cannon. And that really would have been brilliant. But before Eminem went off the deep end, Cassius was able to put out a quick EP as kind of like a teaser and an appetizer for what would have happened later in 2007 or 2008. So this is really kind of like, it's interesting in a sense for Eminem enthusiasts also, just because I would have to say it gives you a taste of what Eminem was up to in 2007, as he really wasn't on very many songs back in those days. He almost completely went vacant that year. Between, like, you know, he was on a song with T.I. and he was on a song with 50 Cent, but for the most part, that was one of Eminem's quietest years, and it's interesting to kind of see his lyrical wordplay and the stuff that he was kind of up to around that time. So, but this is a solid project. I would definitely, so this is a solid album, and I would definitely kind of say and stuff that Cassius was on the pedestal here, and he proved that he is a competent musician. I would say it's a little bit singular. It's not quite as vivid and quite as colorful as I would have liked it to have been, but for what it is, Cassius is a amicable kind of thug personality, kind of like Trick Daddy and Jeezy back in his older days, people like that, and you know, traces of just folks that kind of have more realness about them more so than lyrical wordplay. He's more of like an actual, I do this sort of thing. I'm kind of real and I can prove it to you. And it really, that's interesting in a sense, just because on Eminem's label, apart from like 50 Cent, even 50 Cent kind of, I mean, I feel like Cassius is more lyrical than 50 Cent, but the concept about it in terms of someone who's regularly gangbanging, 50 Cent wasn't really doing that. So this is kind of a taste of someone who's from California, and it's an everyday kind of thing where he's going out, guns busting, that sort of stuff. It's interesting just because it seemed like he was still very much, at least appearing to be about the life that he was talking about at the time while making this album. It seemed like Eminem literally just picked him up off of some corner in Compton or something like that, and that's kind of the interesting thing. But I do think ultimately the problem with it is, of course, is just the fact that his chart appeal is very minimal. I think unless he would have had like a song that Tupac could have done, like California Love, or like a song like E40 did with like T-Pain, where it's kind of like, you know, You and That Booty, something that could have brought him like a glossier kind of mainstream approach, I really think the chances of hearing this guy on the radio were quite minimal. And that just relatively happens to be the thing about it. I mean, because basically the real only thing that Cassius has in his corner in order to get him to sell units is just Eminem. There's no other guests on here, and Eminem really provides him with just a bunch of dark and kind of strictly pretty, you know, thuggish kind of beats. There's no attempts at anything other than just like thorough gangster rap. So just understand that. But so the single is Lack Motion, and this is a pretty smooth song. If there had been more songs like this, and I don't mean on this EP, but on an album, I definitely would have said that this was a very kind of smooth type song. I like the saxophone on here. It just felt really kind of breezy and just had a lot of charisma. This real charming kind of song. I definitely felt like this is an excellent song. The hook is brilliant. Cassius just glided through that whole song. Definitely didn't have a problem with how that approach kind of went. And I really kind of feel like I really feel like I mean this is the sort of song that Cassius needed in order to really be able to get more selling points for the project. Because I don't, on a side note, I don't really know the exact reason as to why Cassius's album never came out. I'm just going to chalk it up to the fact that Eminem himself was going through problems. That's kind of what happened, and Shady Records kind of got sabotaged. It happened with like Stat Quo and Bobby Creekwater and other people like that. But I just kind of feel like this is definitely a good example of songwriting and like good, showcase of like other thoughts of personality. And another song that I feel like kind of has that kind of more kind of showcase of like, hey, this is an exceptional kind of standpoint, is Thoughts of Suicide. This is, especially for the time, there weren't a ton of rappers who were really kind of thinking about death. I mean, Tupac talked about death all the time, and Biggie named his album Life After Death, and he kind of did. But in terms of just full blown thinking, I want to die full blown, I mean, it's not really something Eminem himself did, at least not too frequently. And I feel like this full blown making a song towards it, it was very creative and crafty. And I especially like the kind of mellow and kind of introspective beat on there. But there's just some overall nice touch kind of examples on there as far as that sort of thing. I feel like had Cassius had the opportunity to craft an album, if he would have dropped Loose Cannon, I definitely think it would have had some creative stuff on there. But it's just kind of the concept that the unfortunate thing is, I think most people, because if you look at this guy, he's tatted up to the core, has probably over 50 tattoos on him. So I just feel like his public relations ratio is kind of minimal, which kind of makes him really, he looks more of like one of Eminem's goons as opposed to like someone that you would see on his own. It's not to say that he's a bad musician, but like I said, his public relations factor as to his crossover potential is quite minimal. That's the thing about it. But it's good music. I mean, that's the thing. You just have to understand that it's just kind of, you're probably going to hear about this guy through someone else more so than catching a song like this on the radio or some sort of airplay or out in the club or something like that. It just seems very kind of off to the side. But to talk about a few more songs on this project that were awesome, I really felt like Miss Jenkins had a brilliant beat. I liked the sample on there. It sampled Bohemian Rhapsody. Really kind of stark and kind of gloomy, and this overall ghoulish kind of song about a rival gang member, him shooting and kind of having problems with and just admitting to openly killing him. And that's kind of the concept. Then he penned a letter to his mother as if he died too, in case that happened, and then just kind of having retribution for it. Very stark and dark song, very just kind of haunting, and just definitely one of the darker songs I remember from back in those days, from at that time. Just the beat is just completely creepy and kind of has like a real menacing gleam towards it. Thumping piano in there, just Eminem really knocked that beat out of the park. Gun Rule and Pistol Poppin' are both similar type songs that kind of have more of like an evening kind of feel to me. They kind of feel like more like things are getting ready to get started. I mean, they're almost party songs, but the problem with Cassius is he doesn't really cut loose that much. He doesn't really have much of like wanting to get drunk a little bit and smoke a blunt, something like that. I mean, he's pretty focused on like his lifestyle and the banging and that type stuff. So it's just kind of, I mean, he goes about his life in that sort of category, but both Gun Rule and Pistol Poppin's a little bit more up-tempo. That's the more quick-paced and real kind of a, thumper kind of thing. Eminem fits real well in the song. And I would have to say with Eminem on there, I mean, he was just kind of talking about how he lost proof and Obi Trice got shot in the head around that time, because he did. Obi Trice almost passed on at one point around that time. And is kind of getting sick of like all the kind of posers and just folks that are trying to start beef with them and that type of stuff. And he even briefly mentions like snap rap and southern music and that type of stuff. So it's interesting just to kind of get that brief kind of verse from Eminem. I mean, really, I feel like if there had been a Loose Cannon album, I definitely would have felt like Eminem would have needed to be on there. Definitely have done a hook also. I would have liked a hook from Eminem. He could have knocked one out pretty easily. But yeah, for what it was, Eminem did, stellar. I would have to say I appreciated him on there. Pistol Poppin' was a good one. Gun Rule is kind of like a clone of that song. Same kind of vibe. Maybe not a clone, but same kind of vibe in the same vein. It's appreciative. So basically, the only two songs I didn't like on this project were just That Nigga Gangsta and then Just Like Me. I couldn't get into the beat of Just Like Me at all. I know he was kind of making that for his 9 kids. I guess he has 9 children, but just to kind of say that was just a little bit too much of like kind of introspective and kind of more just ruminating kind of stuff in kind of like a duller, peaceful kind of way. And I mean, it's necessary to kind of have those songs. I just wish it would have been in a more compelling format, something more kind of like Thoughts of Suicide was. But That Nigga Gangsta, I mean, I would have liked the beat, but the execution of it, I liked how it kind of was kind of feeling like it was kind of going. I don't know. It kind of felt like a West Coast song with the attempt behind it probably could have been knocked up a notch a little bit better. But so me liking 5 out of 7 songs on here, I'm gonna give this project I'm gonna give it a 7.75. I don't really, most of the time I would give it a 7.5, but I feel like it's better than a 7.5. I don't want to quite give it an 8 just because I feel like the 2 songs I didn't like, I just didn't care for and probably wouldn't listen to. But I feel like me liking pretty much over a certain portion, I feel like a 7.75 is pretty good. Just a hair beneath an 8. I just would say that that's the relative kind of push for it. I feel like there's lots of good things to mention, but the social score is basically just going to get like a 6 out of 10 because Lack Motion was a pretty smooth song, but there's really no club song or any dance song or anything like that. There's really no kind of festive moments. I mean, Cassius is a pretty singular and straightforward personality. There's no real moments to get up and kind of be recreational to. It's a pretty singular kind of mood the whole way through. So there's nothing really to have vibes for. So I mean, Lack Motion at least did this, but there's nothing else in even remotely around that. And even the Eminem feature is very kind of insular and just not enough of like, both of them needed to loosen up quite a bit. I'd have to say Eminem was dealing with his problems in 2007, but then Cashin kind of had his one-track mind also. So it's just like they needed like some sort of, like it seemed like they weren't a fan of like the Posers and the Snap Rap and that type of stuff, but they needed that kind of song just because it seemed like the Snap Rap was having a better time. And it just had, it needed a more fluid moment to kind of have as like a single or something. But, 6 social, 7.75 score. And I would say, I looked online and Cassius has dropped quite a bit of music, even without Eminem's help. He just, it just is bursting at the seams. There's plenty of music to kind of look for. Apparently, even Eminem produced a few records for Cassius later down the road. So there is more Eminem beats if you like their kind of pairing up. This is kind of the thing there, is just kind of being able to say that they're a good combination, but just keep in mind they have kind of a singular mood. There's not a lot of moments. There's not a lot of moments for like recreation, and it is good, and it does have a dark feel, but you just have to understand that it's just for a different kind of mindset more so than, getting crunk for a Friday night and having, driving around that type of stuff. But at least Lack Motion does that, but just some things to know going in. It's good, but it's just very singular.
What's up, YouTube? It's Jackal Goldkick, and I'm here with Acid Roots, and we're going to be doing a video collaboration reviewing the album The County Hound EP from 2007 by rapper Cassius. So this album came out in 2007. It came out when Cassius was on Shady Records. He was one of the only Shady Records artists at the time that actually got to drop an album. So yeah, me and Acid Roots are going to be reviewing this album. So let's get started with this. I thought this would be an interesting album for us to review because this is around the time when Eminem wasn't really doing a lot of stuff, and he is somewhat involved in this album. So it's kind of something you can get from him in a way. From 2007, it's a time where Eminem wasn't really doing much. And yeah, let's review this County Hound EP from 2007 by rapper Cassius. I got the songs written down, so let's get started with this. So track 1 is County Hound Intro, which is pretty much like this intro track where it's like a mini story type thing where Cash is selling something on the block, and then these dudes see him making money on their block and they don't like that. They notice he's a rapper, so they walk up to him and saying, you know, we can't be doing this. They have an altercation. Then you hear Cassius pull out a gun. Then the intro ends. Pretty cool intro, straightforward, but it works for what it is, since this is mostly like a gangster rap album and Cassius is a gangster rapper. So I would say this intro is pretty good and works really well. So definitely like the intro. It's pretty good. So moving on is track 2, which is called That N-Word or Gangster. This is a pretty good song. I think the production on here is pretty good. It's pretty bouncy sounding. I like the rapping on here from Cassius. I think the production is pretty good. I think it's a pretty good song overall, and I do like it. The one critique I would say for this song is I think the chorus could be a little bit better. One of the problems I think with this album is Cassius definitely could have used better hooks. They're not terrible choruses in the sense that they're unlistenable, but it feels like they could have had more done with them. There could have been a little bit more punch to the chorus. So while I do like this song, That N-Word or Gangster, I think that the chorus could have been a little bit better. I think the rapping is really good. I do like the lyrics. The production's pretty good and pretty bouncy. And I like the song itself, just a good gangster rap song. So that's a good track. So the next track on the album is track 3, Gun Rule, which is a song that's produced by Eminem. This is a pretty good song, one of the stronger songs on the album. I definitely do like Gun Rule. It's a good gangster rap song from Cassius. Eminem produces this song, and I think he does a really good job. I think it's a really good beat that Eminem made for this song for Cassius to rap on. I really like the beat that is here. Cassius has some good rapping on this song. The chorus is pretty good. It's a good song overall. It's another gangster rap song about like guns called Gun Rule. And I think it's a pretty good song overall. I like the rapping. The lyrics are pretty good. And I think the production from Eminem is really, really good. I'm glad Eminem produced something on here. And I think it fits really well with Cassius' rap style. Another thing I do like about Cassius that I will give him pointers for is I think he has a pretty good rap voice. That's something I do like about Cassius, is he always had like a really cool rap voice and kind of a distinctive rap voice. When you hear him, he stands out. So I definitely like his rap voice. So yeah, I do like this track, Gun Rule. So the next song on the album is called Miss Jenkins, which is track 4. I'm mixed on this song. This song samples a song by Queen. I appreciate the subject matter of this song, where Cassius is basically sending a letter to this woman named Miss Jenkins, who is the mother of this dude he killed that he knew in the hood. It's like a kind of a, you know, hood emotional type track. I do like the subject matter and I like the topic, but the reason I'm mixed on the song is because I'm not really a fan of half of the song when it comes to the verses. Like the production and the way it sounds when Cassius is rapping, I couldn't really get into it, but I like the chorus. That's why I'm mixed on this song. I think the chorus on this song with the production and the Queen sample is really, really good. The chorus is amazing on the song. It's probably the best chorus on this album. The chorus is top notch. I love it. I love the beat with the chorus. And that's the problem. The beat on the chorus is different than the beat in the verses. If Cassius would have used the beat on this chorus for the verses, it would have really worked really well. But when it comes to like the rap verses part of the song, I can't really get into it. I think the different beat he uses for the verses just really isn't that appealing to listen to. Overall, I would say Miss Jenkins is definitely a mixed bag of a song. So that's why I think of that one. The next track on the album is track 5, and this one's called Just Like Me. I think this song is really solid. It's a really good song. It reminds me of something that like Young Jeezy would do. And I think Just Like Me is a really good song. The production on this song is really solid. It's probably one of the best beats on this album. The production on this song, Just Like Me, is really solid and it's top notch. It's basically a song talking about, you know, his kids and one of his kids and how they'll grow up to be just like him, which is kind of a different approach to a song, because usually people that live the gang life or hood life, they don't want their kids to grow up like them, but this is Cassius saying, hey, they're going to be just like me. So it's kind of a different way of events, kind of a different way of looking at it, I'd say. It's a different approach to it, but I definitely like the song Just Like Me. I think it has one of the better beats on the album. The production is really good. I think the rapping from Cassius is really good. I do like the chorus. I do like the lyrics, and the rapping from Cassius is really good as well. And it's a good, different kind of flip on the subject matter of having him, you know, saying that his kids will grow up to be just like him, and talking about, you know, the gang life and how he still takes care of his kids and stuff like that. I do like that song overall. So the next song on the album is track 6, which is called Pistol Poppin', featuring Eminem. This is a really good song, definitely one of the better songs on this project. It was cool that Eminem showed up on this album. This is a really good song. It has a nice, good thumping beat. It has a pretty good chorus from Cassius. It has some really good rapping from Cassius. And then Eminem does a really good job on the song. I miss this Eminem so much. You know, I'm not really a fan of new Eminem, but this Eminem right here, even in 2007 when he was, you know, fat and when he was, you know, in his pill addiction, I still think he could kill a song and just rip it apart compared to him now where he may be healthy and sober, but it's like, I feel like he just doesn't have the same flair now as he did in this track. So even when he was at the worst part of his life in 2007, when, you know, he was still on the pills and he was, you know, fat, I think he still could kill some shit. And Eminem has a great verse on this song, Pistol Poppin' with Cash. It's just a nice verse. I like his rap voice here. I like his rap tone. I like his lyrics. I like his flow. His verse is just great on this track, and I really like what Eminem did on the song Pistol Poppin'. I miss this Eminem. Even when Eminem was drugged up and at the worst in his life, he could still just destroy a song and do a great job. This is also back when Eminem could actually do some really good features as well. And I really like Pistol Poppin' with Cassius and Eminem. It's definitely a standout track on this album. It's a really good song. It has great production. It has a great chorus. It has really good rapping from Cassius and an amazing, great guest verse from Eminem. Eminem does a great job in the song. And it's cool to hear something from Eminem in the year 2007 when he wasn't really doing much besides re-up in 2006. He was pretty, you know, quiet for 2005, 6, 7, and 8. So it's cool to get something from Eminem during these times. It's just interesting. And I think he does a great job in this song. So yeah, definitely like Pistol Poppin' with Eminem. Pistol Poppin' is essentially like a gangsta rap song, by the way. Like the subject matter of Pistol Poppin' is like a gangsta rap song. You know, don't mess with me. Even Eminem goes into some territory of, you know, I dare someone to say something about me. I've been going through the worst lately, lost my, you know, best friend Proof and things like that. Just a really good, you know, don't fuck with me, you know, gangsta pistol poppin' type of track from Cassius and Eminem. They do a pretty good job in this song. And yeah, it's a good song overall. So the next song on the album is called Thoughts of Suicide. I think this is a decent track. It's basically like, it reminds me of the song Biggie did called Suicidal Thoughts. I think Thoughts of Suicide, this is a decent song. I don't mind the beat. I think the rapping is good from Cassius. It's basically a song about Cassius talking about like suicidal thoughts and the gang life and hood life type stuff. That's what he goes into subject matter wise on this track. And it's a decent song. You know, the beat's nothing groundbreaking. The chorus is nothing like groundbreaking, but I think it's an alright song for what it is. The beat's okay. The chorus is okay. It's a decent song overall. Cassius does have good rapping and the lyrics are good on here. And the whole kind of like suicidal approach thing is interesting. So yeah, that's what I think of Thoughts of Suicide. It's a decent song. So for the final track on the album, track 8, Lack of Motion, I think this is a decent song as well. This is an okay track. This is another song that Eminem produces on the album. I think Lack of Motion is an okay song. I like the beat somewhat on here from Eminem, but I don't know. I wasn't really like fully into this track. You know, it kind of feels like Cassius was going for sort of a hood like club type of track. It felt like some kind of hood club type of party thumping type track he was trying to go for. And it was cool to have Eminem produce this song, but the song went as far as just being okay. I didn't really love this song, but I thought it was just okay. I like parts of the beat, but I think the production maybe could have been a little bit stronger from Eminem. Maybe Eminem should have showed up on this song, which is something I'll get into when I get to the score of scoring this album. But I think Lack of Motion is an okay song. The beat's somewhat good. I like the somewhat party approach. The rapping is good and the lyrics are good, but the song is just okay. I think the beat could have been, you know, stronger on this track. I think the hook could have been stronger on here, and, you know, maybe have Eminem show up for another verse. I think that would have really made the song a lot better. But I think Lack of Motion is an okay song for what it is. I just think it could have used a little bit more punch and flair, and it would have really nailed being a good like hood party type of track. You know, the kind of beat it had and what Cassius was going for with the rapping and the hook, it just felt like it wasn't really thoroughly nailed or, you know, knocked it out of the park. It just comes off as an okay track. So that's what I think of that one. So when it comes to the County Hound EP overall from 2007 by rapper Cassius, I think it's a decent gangster rap album. If I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. I think it's a decent gangster rap album. Cassius has pretty good rapping on here. Most of the beats are pretty good, and it's nice that Eminem has some stuff to do on here, but I think what would have helped this album to be a lot better is if some of the hooks were better. I think Eminem should have been on at least another song. I'm glad he has some production on here. I'm glad he showed up on a song, but I think Eminem could have at least been on one more song. I think he should have been on Lack of Motion, but I think Eminem should have been on at least one more song. That would have helped the album. Since this album was affiliated with Shady Records and Eminem, I think that Dr. Dre should have definitely been on this album. He should have at least produced a song for Cassius or even collaborated with him. Maybe 50 Cent could have been on here, G-Unit, you know, other people in the Shady Records camp. And like, you know, when it, like, you know, some of the tracks, like that N-Word a Gangster, that's a good song, but the chorus could have been stronger on there. Gun Rule, good song, but the chorus could have been stronger on there. And then Miss Jenkins has the best chorus on the album, but the rap parts I'm not a fan of because of the beat style. Just Like Me, that's a pretty good song. It has a solid beat, one of the best beats on the album. Pistol Poppin' with Cassius and Eminem is great. Definitely one of the best songs on the album. And then Thoughts of Suicide and Lack of Motion are just decent songs. I think Lack of Motion could have maybe used the Eminem feature. Maybe the beat could have been more powerful. But overall, I think the County Hound EP by Cassius, it's a decent album. I give it a 6 out of 10. It's a decent album overall. Not one of the best things I ever heard. Not an amazing or classic album, but from my listen, it was an alright experience. It was a decent album for what it is. The rapping was good. The lyrics were good. And, you know, the times Eminem was involved with like Pistol Poppin' and Gun Rule was pretty good, though I think his beat on Lack of Motion could have been better. That's all I got to say in this collaboration review. Let us know what you think of this album. Peace.